This is a story of the boys in one small Utah town. These events could have happened, in principle, anywhere. In New York, in Iowa, or in San Diego. Anywhere. In fact, where there are boys who need guidance and where there are men who will give their time, talents, and energies to provide that guidance. These boys explore rivers by paddling down them in black rubber rafts and canoes. They are led by men of integrity, honesty, and courage, who have a compelling urge to touch the soul of a boy and help him become a man. Through the efforts of these leaders, boys from all walks of life are brought into contact with the beauties of nature. Panoramic vistas of the Creator's handiwork leave indelible impressions on the soul of each man and boy beholding them. In learning the rudiments of canoeing, a boy learns to control his own destiny. By working with others to paddle an awkward raft down a sullen river, he learns the value of teamwork. And when he finds himself on his own, in the swirling waters of adulthood, the lessons learned on these rivers will be the lessons that will guide him to victory in the game of life. How do these boys learn to accept responsibility? The best way is to give it to them. Give them the job of planning menus and packaging food for an expedition. Sure, you might live on root beer and wieners for a week, but you could be pleasantly surprised to find that the job has been completed with a thoroughness that you never expected. Unfortunately, careful planning is not all that is required to construct a meal from even these carefully packed bags. All the planning in the world will not overcome hunger pangs and the eagerness of a group of boys to chow down. Wet wood, a fire that is too hot, and an inexperienced chef all add to the problems of camping out. It is at this point that a good leader will remain discreetly in the background. Sure, the hotcakes are going to be black on the outside and raw on the inside. They'll probably be heavier than a bride's biscuits, too. The entire crew will probably feel like they had eaten a sack full of green apples. But these are the experiences that mold and shape a boy's character. The hardships of life flex his spiritual muscles and make of him a man. Given enough time, enough fortitude and patience on the part of their leaders, and an iron constitution, which is standard equipment for all teenage boys, and they'll learn how to cook an outdoor meal that is the equal of the finest restaurant cuisine. A feast of scrambled eggs, hash brown potatoes, and bacon will have them coming back for more and more and more. After devouring a first-class breakfast, what more natural thing could explorers do but explore? That natural curiosity of all boys to see what's over the next hill needs to be satisfied. A good leader will at these times carefully refrain from leading. After taking all possible precautions to ensure their well-being, a wise leader puts his charges on their own. This is a primitive country that took thousands of years to fashion. It is filled with remote canyons, blind alleys, high cliffs, indescribable beauty, and even a few snakes. A true explorer wants to see every inch of it. He wants to discover these things for himself. Somehow it's better that way, because everything seems smaller in the presence of an adult. These boys acquire spiritual strength the same way they develop physical stamina, by pitting their resources against the power of a mightier force. Here is the challenge of an unexplored land. In New York, it could be the challenge of racial prejudice. In Iowa, the challenge of crop yield. In San Diego, an ocean bottom is open for exploration. Man has never achieved progress without sacrifice. Indeed, it seems fitting and proper that some should falter and even fall, that others might discover the greatness that lies dormant in their own souls. Strangely enough, the role of a qualified leader is not to always be in the lead, but rather to be in the background occasionally, just enough to allow others the opportunity to have the lead. Yet he should always be near enough to apply the emergency brake should the inexperienced driver find himself in trouble. Come, let us give thanks, for this thy brother was injured and is alive. He was fallen and is found again. Isn't this dangerous? Sure it is. So is driving a car. So is playing football. So is flying. For that matter, so is lying in bed. Thousands of people die in bed every day. A boy doesn't learn to cope with danger by being protected from it. Instead, he must be trained. He must be told what to expect and how to react in the presence of a force he cannot control. There will come a time, later, when the principles learned on these roaring rapids will be utilized in the more important struggle to find a place in society. Yes, there is danger here, but there is danger in the very act of living, too. In 9 years, not one serious injury has been sustained on a river trip by this troop. In the calmer stretches of the river, a boy can match his wits against those of the sly and cunning San Juan trout. And to the victor goes the spoils. A catfish may not sound like much to a lot of people, but when a boy has snared his prey by himself, cleaned it, and prepared it for cooking, it would take a team of mules to separate him from his just rewards. In this setting, among these people, the sizzle of a catfish being done to a turn could lure a boy away from a filet mignon at the Waldorf Astoria. Of course, there are those who don't exactly care for catfish. But that just leaves more for those who do. A leader's problems aren't always confined to the simple task of providing a reasonably safe activity for a group of boys. There are those in every community that need a different kind of help. It matters not how simple the problems of youth may appear to an adult. To the boy, they are enormous. A leader must never indicate that they seem ridiculous or trivial. Instead, if he bides his time, the right moment will present itself when the boy can be reached. Everyone is interested in something. The leader's problem is to discover what that something is and to develop it into a useful pursuit. From outcast to rockhound in one easy step? No. Many hours of counseling, inspired by a sincere interest in the boy's needs and abilities, were required before he emerged from his cocoon to take a useful place in society. We must remember that within each individual there is a potential seed of greatness. It is our responsibility to uncover this seed, to feed it and carefully nourish it until it develops and grows into a full-bloomed tree bearing a useful fruit. Yes, it takes time. plenty of time to be a good leader. But if all the hours of guiding and trying to comprehend the mind of a youth are rewarded by having just one boy salvaged from a life of turmoil and conflict, then it has been worth every bit of it. For as the greatest teacher of all times once said, "Inasmuch as ye have done it unto the least of one of these thy brethren, ye have done it unto me." The formula for inspiring physical fitness in a group of explorers is this. Take a troop of boys, put them in a long canyon about 7 miles from their objectives, place an old war horse, a veteran scouter of many years, affectionately called Chief, in front of them, and let him hike them into the ground. There isn't a boy alive that wants to admit that a 40-year-old railroad engineer can outwalk him. He would rather die than have it proved to him. What happens when a troop of explorers reach an unimproved spring in a desert area after a long, hot, dusty hike? They are likely to be quite irritated by having to wait for a drink from a slow drip. Being explorers, they will put their training to use and do something about it. And when this happens, the leader's best bet is to stand back and let events proceed along their natural course. It will surprise many to see what some budding hydraulic engineer will come up with to solve a vexing problem. Countless travelers following this path will be eternally grateful for the efforts of a troop of thirsty explorers who contributed a roll of aluminum foil and a few minutes' work to make the way easier for those who follow. Men have tried for centuries to create a perpetual motion machine. It may be true that there is no such thing, yet the nearest thing to it has existed right under our noses. The elements of the machine are very simple. Take one of nature's swimming holes filled with cold, clear water from natural springs. Add a few boys of explorer age. No need to stir. This will be done automatically. And there you have the nearest thing to perpetual motion known to science. What better way is there to teach history than to bring the students into actual contact with the remnants of a proud and mighty nation? There is an air of aloofness about our red brothers which is difficult to penetrate. Here in the remote parts of an appointed reservation, they practice a way of life little changed from that of their fathers and their fathers before them. Their aloofness is shared even by their animals. It isn't difficult to understand the withdrawal of the red man when we study a record of deceit, depravity, and exploitation on the part of their European conquerors. Having a knowledge of this past, it is easier for these boys to communicate with a Navajo chieftain. Though neither can understand the language of the other, a bond of friendship and of mutual understanding is established between the people of two ways of life. When we approach those who have skin of a different color, who have beliefs different from ours, with an open mind and a sincere desire to understand, we lay the foundation for a future world free of the conflicts and strife of today's society. A simple barter for a genuine Indian artifact is an achievement that will live forever in the memories of both these individuals. Practice makes perfect, however, and by the following year, all hands turned out to see the raising of the colors and to hear the sweetest bugle calls this side of West Point. Where is the man who would deny a boy such an opportunity? Where is the man who would not gladly give his time and energy to provide the same privilege for other boys? I want to take this opportunity to let you know that I love each and every one of you as much as I love my own sons. We've shared many experiences together this week. I want you to know that I will cherish them forever. Now, I want you to do one more thing before we leave. I want everyone that has locked horns with another, everyone that may harbor some ill feelings toward his neighbor, to reach out and tell him that you forgive him, right now, before we leave. Now, when we meet again, grab his hand, pump it up and down, and say, "Hi there, old pal. We rode life's river together."
For over 4,000 years, these valleys, formed the great master river, the Colorado, have been inhabited. For those who were strong or who sought freedom, they were a place of safety, a refuge. The Spaniards came to this land in the 1700s, but they are gone now and all but forgotten. Later, the white man came. A few of his breed endured for a while, then they too left, returning the land to its rightful heir, the Indian. For centuries, these people have tended their animals, cultivated their fields, as their forefathers have done before them. They are the remnants of a mighty civilization that has stretched its influence across North and South America. They are the living witnesses of a grandeur and splendor almost beyond our conception. This is the land of the Apache, the Navajo, the Hopi, the Paiute, and many others. Their past is our heritage, their history a vivid prophecy of our future. Inspired leaders dedicated to the task of building stalwart characters in youthful bodies have led a multitude of youngsters into this primitive wilderness. Many a boy, exploring the remains of an ancient civilization, has found the inspiration he needed to give meaning to his own life. Now this fantastically rugged, exquisitely beautiful part of the Colorado River will no longer be available for river trips by groups of men and boys. The huge Glen Canyon Dam, will help bury a favorite section of the river under a vast lake. With the formation of this badly needed reservoir, a part of the past will be forever lost to the very water that gave it birth. Motivated by this knowledge, a group of men and boys embarked upon a dedicatory trip to pay final tribute to those who had gone before and to ask forgiveness of those future generations who would never have the opportunity of spending a week exploring this part of the river. A flag was entrusted to the group with instructions to give it a proper and fitting burial at Rainbow Bridge, the last major stop and the high point of a week on the river. Though the expedition had a mission above and beyond the usual, it was never intended to be a funeral procession. As the cavalcade made its way to the river, it was taken through some of Utah's most famous settlements. Settlements that were in themselves monuments to a dedicated pioneer people who refused to subject their ideals to the ridicule of ignorance. Provo, Springville, Castle Gate, Price, and Green River, where beneath the blazing Utah sunset, the group paused to pay their respects to Bert Loper, a man who loved the West with an unbridled passion, a man who broke the trail by leading numerous expeditions into the rugged wilderness of the Colorado River Basin. Many hours later, after an all-night ride, the goal was attained. The river was a welcome sight. Unload your gear. Man those pumps. Double-check everything. We won't be coming back. Man those pumps. Organized confusion seemed to abound. Get 'em in the water. Get 'em loaded. We don't have all day. The hooligan Navy was getting underway. And through it all, the pumps were valiantly manned. Adrift at last, 87 aching backs were rested. 87 pairs of eyes explored the beauty of the river basin. And then, as if by magic, the unofficial theme song came rolling across the muddy river water.
He knew it all the time.
Molly Mouse was a hat chick girl, woo-woo. Molly Mouse was a hat chick girl, he thought he gave this chick a whirl, woo-woo. He started up to Molly Mouse's side,
The direct approach.
He started up to Molly Mouse's side, He started up to Molly Mouse's side, and he whispered, Molly, will you be my bride,
Her Uncle Ras was on TV.
My Uncle Atkinson, my Uncle Atkinson, I wouldn't marry the president, She said that since I better hit the
These boys rustle their own wood, make their own campsites, cook their own chow. The Sabbath is observed wherever these groups may be. All, regardless of color or creed, are given inspiration by the simple religious services that are conducted in nature's own cathedrals. Messages of inspiration are delivered as individuals share their religious experiences with others in the expedition. And more than one youth who considered himself tough has wiped away his tears as they crept softly down a sunburned cheek. Amid the ruins of the home of some ancient family, the past is brought to life by one who has studied it. The instructor may not be a professional teacher, but his lessons will never be forgotten by these boys. Youth becomes greater and more noble by being brought into contact with the artifacts of a great and noble people. The exact meaning of these marks are lost to us, but their mystery will make them even more meaningful to these boys. In learning how others have lived, a boy learns more of how he should live. It is indeed true that a man never stands so tall as when he kneels to help a boy. With a final gathering, we honor this land and this campsite. We've been here 6 times. We will never be here again. We leave nothing but our footprints, and yet we are immeasurably richer for what we have received at this place. Each morning's activities are launched with a prayer for guidance, wisdom, and protection from harm. Many a boy has experienced his first prayer at this or a similar place. The Colorado has many moods. Her actions are sometimes slow and lazy, sometimes fast and turbulent. After letting the boys get the feel of the canoes on the calmer stretches, they are sent through the rapids. They are on their own at this point. Everything they have been taught must be remembered and used. This rapid old bullfrog is a strict disciplinarian. Her lessons are not soon forgotten. It's a wild, exhilarating ride which is long remembered.
Walking down the Colorado. Hey, lily, lolly-lo. The only shade in your body's shadow. Hey, lolly-lolly-lo. Hey, lolly-lolly-lolly. Hey, lolly-lolly-lo. Hey, lolly-lolly-lolly. Hey, lolly-lolly-lo. There ain't no chance of sleeping in the morn. Hey, lolly-lolly-lo. After hearing that stinking horn. Hey, lolly-lolly-lo. Hey, lolly-lolly-lolly. Hey, lolly-lolly-lo. Hey, lolly-lolly-lolly. Hey, lolly-lolly-lo. We didn't mind the wind and sand. Hey, lolly-lolly-lo. We was putting up that cameraman. Hey, lolly-lolly-lo. Hey, lolly-lolly-lolly. Hey, lolly-lolly-lo. Hey, lolly-lolly-lolly. Hey, lolly-lolly-lo. Our rubber boats are in the pink. Hey, lolly-lolly-lo. One more hole, they're bound to sink. Hey, lolly-lolly-lo. Hey, lolly-lolly-lolly. Hey, lolly-lolly-lo. Hey, lolly-lolly-lolly. Hey, lolly-lolly-lo. Rainbow Bridge is quite a sight. Hey, lolly-lolly-lo. After hiking half the night. Hey, lolly-lolly-lo. Hey, lolly.
This is a land of contrast. Tremendous volume of water flows through a desert. The most delicate of flowers bloom in a harsh, unyielding setting. The white man has delegated it to the Indian because of its apparent worthlessness, and now he seeks it because of the vast wealth concealed below its surface. On one side of the river are the remains of Bert Loper's cabin. Adventurer, explorer, naturalist, he was a devoted leader of youth who dedicated his life to the preservation of the West. Appropriately, he has been forever lost to the swirling waters of the Colorado. Somewhere, on some uncharted sandbar, he has once again become a part of the land he loved so well. A few miles away across the river are the remnants of Robber's Roost, a home of those whose only goal was exploitation, plunder, and desecration. This, too, will soon become a forgotten landmark, buried by the waters of the Colorado. Almost 100 years ago, a hardy band of pioneers came to this place. They hacked a hole through rock cliffs. For 3 months, they labored to chisel, bore, pry, and lace together the pieces of a road on which they lowered their Conestogas to the river's edge. They'd been sent on a mission by their inspired leader, Brigham Young. And though they knew not what lay ahead, they would not turn back. Hole in the rock is a monument to the pioneers of our nation. By retracing their footsteps, these boys will be a little bigger and a little better. The trials of their forefathers will have a deeper meaning than ever before. The words heritage, tolerance, freedom, and dedication will assume new dimensions and new values.
Mine eyes have seen the glory of the coming of the Lord. He is trampling out the village where the grapes of wrath are stored. He has loosed the faithful lightning of his terrible sword. His truth is marching on. Glory, glory, hallelujah. Glory, glory, hallelujah. Glory, glory, hallelujah. His truth is marching on. Mine eyes have seen the glory of the coming of the Lord. He is trampling out the village where the grapes of wrath are sown. He has loosed the faithful lightning of his terrible sword. His truth is marching on.
Natural basins formed by ages of erosion in these magnificently beautiful canyons become nearly perfect swimming holes. The water is cold, clear, and as pure as new-fallen snow. Swimming is a welcome diversion from the heat of the main river channel. Perhaps the biggest temptation for those on these trips is to remain here for the rest of their lives. An overwhelming silence caresses the ears with velvet fingers. Men have lived in these canyons for years, for the land will provide a bountiful living for those who know it and are careful to take only what they need. Though wild and primitive, this ever-changing land has a way of taking to itself those marks placed upon it by the bold and sturdy. It jealously guards and protects those marks from the ceaseless forces of nature, which would obliterate them if it could. Now, in a few short years, man himself will defeat the land in this purpose, for the remnants of a bygone era will be swallowed in the depths of a man-made lake to be forever lost to our sight. Artifacts left by the Indian will likewise bow to the restless march of civilization. In some bygone age, the children of another people played around these protecting walls. What young Indian fabricated them, patiently mixing mortar, splitting stones, and filling cracks until he was satisfied that it would shelter himself and his family? In the almost forgotten past, did another youth leave this dwelling to explore an unknown canyon, or stalk a deer, or perhaps to ponder the secrets of life? Did his father, grown old and wise, assign the responsibilities of the clan to him before departing on that inevitable journey to the happy hunting grounds? Did these people love their families less than we do ours? Did their women receive less joy from their children than the mothers of our children do? God has not failed to give to all the capacity to love and protect those things which are dear to the heart. Rainbow Bridge, the spot selected to pay final tribute to the river, the last long hike, the last good swimming, and one last tribute to the land that had been so good to us would take place here. It was fitting that the troop flag, which had made this trip 6 times, the flag that had been entrusted to us for this purpose, should be burned and buried here to also become a part of a glorious past.
On my honor, I will do my best to do my duty to God and my country, to obey the Scout law, to help other people at all times, to keep myself physically strong, mentally awake, and morally straight.